This is Moonlighting again for Black Spring with Autumn. Hope you guys are doing well out there. And I don't know, I just thought I'd come in for a second and just kind of wanted to share some things that I think this has kind of become abundantly clear. Now, and when I say this has become abundantly clear through even my own, if you just do kind of an extensive, I've done a lot of research, I think, over the years, but then, and I've also was wise enough to listen to other perspectives. And now that this election saga is still at the very beginning. So we'll just say we're at the infancy of we're at the infancy of a lot of things. But I'm here to share with you. I think some things are being stacked. The deck is being stacked. And I don't even know if it's fair to call, I mean, America, I just the things that I'm witnessing or some of the revelations that I've come across that I've come to um concern the type of the type of atmospheres that we have, quote, politically, groups of people over the years. And what I'm about to share with you is just mostly just a revelation that I've had in terms of when I look at when I look at just aside from this election cycle, I'm starting to see there's a pattern, and I don't know if other people. I'm not suggesting that others are recognizing a pattern, but I will say, no matter what you think of Trump or what you think of these out of the current results, the pending results of, or the outcome of this election cycle, there are some things that become abundantly clear. Now, there's a group of people that I think I'm just starting to think that they are. I've heard I've heard from what is it, this Letitia James from New York, that I'm telling you, America has a huge faction of Marxists. I'm gonna tell you something, and if you're one of these people that's wearing your feelings on your shoulders, and you're looking for that victimhood, you're looking for that, you get ready to go to that low place in victimhood. This probably is not the stream for you. If you're about this, you might be about to suffer a narcissistic injury right now, because I'm gonna tell you, America has recruited, and I cringe when I say, quote, America or Rome 2.0 has recruited blacks under the auspices of pretty much under gaslighting. They have basically they're recruiting blacks, and they have these king shit liberals are, if you go through history and notice all the black people, the quote and unquote black people that they lift up, have gone to liberal colleges. They have been they've gone to liberal colleges. They're praised for going to these liberal colleges. And then their achievements, and for the ones that quote unquote achieve some of the highest quote rankings, they are all on some level been recruited as Marxists and communists. If you look at the profile of most quote blacks from you go into the Harlem Renaissance or Harlem Renaissance, and you can see some of the most influential people were either they went to Russia and earned uh, prizes for their communism, or many of the blacks from the United States went to Russia and freaking received basically denounced their freaking citizenship. They turned in, they basically, no, they were done with it. You go to Angela Davis, W.B. Du Bois, which is more accurate. These people were freaking communist. And now, when Babylon, or if you whatever you want to call it, America is falling, they are using these blacks right now. Now, America, I believe America has its own history. America has a faction of communists. They had a goal for the black belt. But of course, what did they do? They exploited the black man's plight. And of course, the to me, the general theme all over the world when they came up that with that phrase, we shall with the term, I mean, with the slogans and all this, we shall overcome, that was not new to the United States. It had been done in places like Algeria, it had been done in Cuba, all these other places where communism, they basically those that was not a new slogan. But what they've done is, like, if you think about BLM and you think about the Patrice Cullors and all these people, they are self-admitted trained Marxist. And when I look at this Letitia James character, the speech that she made, I'm telling you, you don't have an attorney general in this woman. You don't have, these are not, that's the gaslighting. That's the gaslighting. They have recruited, quote, blacks, recruited them under AGs and Senate, but they're activists. Is what my my issue is. My argument is that these are Marxist. What I'm saying that there is an underlying agenda. These are not, you have activists serving as, quote, judges. You've got activists serving as lawyers, and they've reached the highest office of the land, the highest offices of the land. And they're going to, quote, use blacks, end quote, blacks, quote, blacks, unquote, end quote, blacks to completely transform this place. They're already doing it. They're already doing it. So now Letitia, they were like, oh, I saw the headlines. Oh, Democrats are reeling from the Trump. Da, 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 da. Is it the Democrats? I mean, when we really think about the Democrats, does that party that's a misnomer. I'm thinking that the Democrat Party, that's a complete misnomer. I'm even beginning to think America's name in itself is a misnomer, because I'm telling you, the next 4 years, they are already stacking a Marxist landscape for the next 4 years. This, to me, where no matter what happens with the status of Trump and all this leading up to January, they're already they're setting, this woman is saying that they're ready, that the New York's, I guess they've been ready. So to me, I'm saying, to me, how do you get somebody, how is one individual doing that type of work alone? You have to have some type of backing and power. And I'm going to tell you, I'm sorry to say this. If you're about to suffer, you're about to suffer a narcissistic injury right now, you have to have power, and you have to be, in order for most black people, end quote, and that's just the history is what I see. That's another pattern. In order for you to be elevated that high, you have to be of a Marxist / communist faction in order to reach that. In order to reach that office, I saw another liner about, Trump's got this mandate, okay, based on the results. But there's also other mandates. There's Marxist mandates and communist mandates going on in this country. I mean, I'm just telling you, you just think of the magnitude of one person standing up and saying that they are ready. They've been preparing for this moment. Complete antagonist. Complete. If somebody were to write about this, it's complete antagonist. It's complete. I'm telling you, it's a complete antagonist situation. But one person cannot wield that kind of power without being backed by without some type of wiring or without some major support. Hello, Latina A and Cali. So I'm just telling you, they've elevated these quote blacks, end quote blacks, elevated them to the quote highest institutions and offices of the land, and they're being empowered to me to basically, hey, they're going to do whatever they like I said, she hasn't met this Letitia James DA, I mean AG, she has a mandate, and everybody in the guy before, I forgot the other guy, the New York, maybe it was a DA in New York. They all have a mandate. New York, California, when they elevate somebody, they are basically, if you just think about it, they all come from the same they come from the same pedagogues. You've got theology schools that have produced quote blacks, end quote blacks. You've got these kingship liberals that praise blacks that have gone and basically, given up their citizenship to freaking Russia and won prizes, because I'm telling you, the communists have always waved. They've been waving. They've been trying to use blacks themselves for their own agendas. And to me, the Democrats are no different. That's why I think that party name is absolutely, it's complete misnomer. It's deception. And I ask, discernment, hey, that is not what that party is. And if I look back at all these quote civil end quote civil quote rights end quote, people, they all have the same kind of, they follow in the tracks of previous activists, W.B. Du Bois, the Talented Tenth, and all these romanticized figures from the past. Angela Davis, who's also as a professor, in California. These people renounced their citizenship of the United States for Russia and became communist. They are known. So how in the world? I'm just telling you, they completely, if you go look at some of these singers, these athletes, these actors from the past, even as far back as the Harlem Renaissance, they have the same pedigree, the same pedagogues. They go to these liberal colleges and they are praised. Look at their biographies. This is the unspoken, what I find absolutely ironic. You can Google any of these people from the Harlem Renaissance to the Civil Rights Movement. Some of the most, quote, celebrated intellectuals amongst black, quote, blacks, end quote, blacks, they are celebrated by these liberals, and many of them for their activism and for accepting Pulitzers and prizes. These are people that have been elevated. They're being lifted up by the damn communist. The same communists that are uplifting them are the same ones that they are using to destroy whatever's left of this country. Because I'm telling you, they have already, this woman, this attorney general, just think about it. Pedigree, Kamala Harris was a district attorney. I mean, I think she was AG. I'm not whichever one. It's the same little pedigree. Marxist trained blacks elevated, utilized to exploit, to claim, oh, they're fighting for the most vulnerable. And that's what the main thing is, to always divide the people and to always, the people always have a cause. They're always there to exploit the disparities amongst people. That's exactly what they're doing. And to me, this was a revelation for me, but it's only because of the amount of research that I've done, and then in the pattern is there. That's why when you be careful with this whole civil rights thing. When you see what it's laced with and what it's hitched to, civil rights wasn't just some pure, and most movements I'm beginning to see in history, they don't manifest out of thin air. There is a basis for it. There is a root. But that root, most of these are civil rights, these civil rights movements, they had the roots. They're rooted in something. And to me, it looks like it's Marxism and communism. And now these same people, when you look at the celebrated people from the infancies of those quote movements, the people they were connected to, even King was linked. And that is, I'm telling you, he's in many photos. King is standing right next to, known communist. So when I see these Letitia James, I see that basically the root, my contention is that many of these movements were not about revolutions. It was really about infiltrating, because that's what you have right now. You've got these AGs, and they're all in these they've been elevated to these levels of power. But it didn't come about. It was hitched to something else. Everything, even feminism and all of these you can go back to feminism and even the alleged abolitionists. There was a root. Sojourner Truth, she wasn't just getting invited to she didn't just get invited to Ohio to make that speech. She was hitched. It was hitched to a whole nother cause. How does an abolitionist, you just think, how does an abolitionist get linked or hitched to feminism? Does it just materialize out of nowhere? And there's the other pattern. Most people, notable historical people, quote blacks, end quote blacks, free women, free this, free that, activists, this, civil rights, this, they all rose on from the same root. They had the same root. They had the same stem. Let's put it like that. They all rose from the same stem. And now it's almost like a freaking blossom. You see what they become. They were exalted or raised for destruction, or to topple somebody else. And it's Marxist and it's communism. That's what it is. The Democrats are not Democrats. No, they're not. I think that party in itself, to me, I believe is linked to communism, because America has its own communist party. And I don't know that you never hear why isn't that talked about? So you got all these factions, and if you're out here playing in this system, and you're going out here voting and casting and doing this and all of that, that never comes up. It's all these illusions and the romanticism and the symbolism. I'm telling you, people are going to die on symbolism. You're going to die by the symbolism. But I'm telling you, you cannot cash. I just want to say this to anybody that's quote black or about to suffer a narcissistic injury on this. I'm telling you, you cannot cash a check on your symbolism. You haven't been able to cash a check on these stupid museums that they've given you from the quote civil rights movement. You haven't been able to cash a check on civil rights. You haven't been able to cash a check on the museums. You can't cash a check on the holidays that they gave you. You can't cash a check on the street names that they gave you. You can't cash a check on the statues that they gave you that look like a bunch of phalluses and all kinds of perversion. None of that is sustainable, but it's symbolism. And I will say this: no matter whether you went out and played the game or whatever you did, yeah, on the 5th or whatever you did in the early voting, people were showing who they are. Most of these people, shout out to Mr. Pearson. A lot of these people speak. They speak through symbolism all day. A lot of these factions of these fraternities and these sororities, these so-called secret societies, oh yeah, they show who they are all the time. And you notice when there's a big political day or a big when there's every one of them were showing their allegiance. And to me, I'm beginning to wonder if some of these secret societies and these fraternities and sororities are not linked to Marxist and communism. It's too close. It's a little bit too close to me, birds of a feather. They're all, look at the lineage. Maybe I want to say um, the lineage. Usually, even in literature, if you get an item or something that just keeps coming up, there is a story there. There is significance there. There is a significance to what it is. But like I said, America to me, the same thing, I'm sorry to say, the same thing America celebrates is the same thing that's taking it down, that's going to take it down. You know, national identity. Do they realize there's a whole new world order agenda? And for years, people try to shut people down, calling people conspiracy theorists. You can't. Colors it's their symbolism. And I told you this: red and blue make purple every day. If you that's a very fundamental, a very primary lesson in colors. Red and blue make purple. So when you bring them together, it's a powerful force. So it's gonna be a lot more revealing things to come out, not just from the Marxists that have been elevated, these quote black in quote AGs and DAs and judges and all these things. And see, they've pointed them. See, you don't have more time. You don't have a revolution. Your movements did not bring about revolutions. They brought about infiltration. And that's exactly what you have. You have communist and Marxist infiltration that's going on. It is the arch nemesis lines that are running through this place. So I'm just saying, I don't know what that the guy was his name Brown. I mean, I'm just saying these people have already, this woman said she will not, this Letitia James, she has just declared war on a president-elect. And then, of course, I'm hearing that AG Barr is saying that, oh, you guys should dismiss this. You know, the people have spoken. Da 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 da. You need to go ahead and dismiss it. You need to go ahead and dismiss it. They are not going to do that. If anything, they're going to ramp it up. And I'm going to tell you that also it's a more dangerous, it's a very dangerous time in this country, because I do believe that the vitriol and the acts is only going to intensify. It's only going to intensify with this latest development. I'm telling you, got people going in. I'm not a psychologist. That's not my domain of competence. But you've got a lot of people that have had a complete break with reality. I don't know if that's by definition called psychosis. Those results with the results that were coming in on Tuesday, you could see certain people, and specifically I'm talking about a lot of Black people, and especially the baby boomers. I know one specifically that had a complete break with reality. Oh, I hope we'll be all right. How in the world do you claim to have any faith, but that's where your mind goes when you watch something from a bunch of alphabet networks? All of a sudden, people that never picked up a history book are experts on Russia, Putin, da 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 da. You've never read anything Hitler. You never gave a damn about history or casualties, but you can always figure out how to find the victimhood and bring it, make it about yourself. That's complete narcissism. Complete. But all of a sudden, you got people that have never paid attention to politics. They've never read a book on history, never read a book about Hitler, never read a book about Stalin, never read a book about communism, never read about anything. Oh, well, this why it's this way, and he just wants to get in there and do. I'm like, well, what history books did you read before you went through? Oh, I get it. You were on MSNBC History 101. Is that the course you took? Is that your course? As I'm telling you, you need to go get you some source. You need to invest in a few more sources. But they're not going to do that. Unfortunately, when you're basically a narcissist, or you have a narcissist characteristics, you're always looking for you'll never find a victor in in the victim. You won't. You won't. And I'm sorry to say, but I'm not sorry to say, I'm saying it has to be said that many people, they're not low information. That the people that claim to know things now, the people that think they're awake, they went to MSNBC and CNN and all these liberal sources to learn history. You didn't accept it from the American public school system, which I get that too. But you wouldn't take it on your own. You wouldn't take it upon yourself to educate yourself. But you want to take the word. You got your education. You got less than a Cliff Notes education from MSNBC on Hitler, Putin, Ukraine, England. Well, these I heard some of the most ridiculous stuff. Oh, well, the people are so poor in England because they don't have a say. The people in Russia because Putin is. I'm like, since when did you start speaking the name of Putin? You started speaking the name of Putin within the last 10 years, last 8 years. So all of a sudden, you're an expert on history, courtesy of MSNBC, ABC, CNN. Is that where you get your history lessons from? I mean, I'm just seriously. It's just rhetoric. It's nothing but rhetoric that comes out. All right, let me just read a couple comments here. But I'm just saying, I don't mean to digress, but I'm saying that to me, the pattern is watch and see what whoever's been previously elected from the quote the so-called the quote Democrat in quote Democrat Party. Watch and see how they have got mandates now that TRUMP is in place. Their mandates they had pre-activated mandates. That's basically what this Letitia James out of New York is saying. So how do you do that? How do you do that? Because you've been empowered by another movement that's already been in place in this country. Yes, you have. And like I said, America doesn't talk about its own faction of a communist party. America has its own communist party, and it's not dead. It didn't die down. They weren't look, it's alive and well. They've got their own, to me, they've got their own armies, their own troops, their own mandates, and they're going to be unleashed. They were active. They activated him the moment he started. They were already activated. So let me just go through these. You said Gavin Newsom overtook the California Constitution using the CV sheet. Yeah, well, see, most of these people they weren't going to relinquish their power from that. No, they weren't. The minute they got that power, They weren't going to relinquish it. They, they did not, they didn't even lift restrictions. They had everybody living like going, it was sad. Let's see. She says, so how do we get out of there? Hey, if it hasn't been done already, they're not going anywhere. It's like, to me, it's generational. I think the installation, I think they were installed. That's another thing. I'm thinking more, there's more installation going on. There's more installations of these factions of Marxists and communists in this country than anything. They've been installed. Harris was installed. So that's what, to me, Black history and civil rights, all this are installation of the Marxist and communist. That's exactly what it is. These people going into for the highest offices of the land. They got there by either installations or being empowered by the Marxists and communists in this country. I do think the American Communist Party is very alive and well. I think very much. They have to get their supply. They have to have something to feed on. They have to. Let's keep going here. See, Latina say abolitionists were peaceful, nonviolent Christian types that got used because they didn't know any better, is what I had thought. Well, I mean, a lot of them, like, what was it? Yeah. I mean, I can't, I'm speaking to specifically how this Sojourner Truth is a poster child for, she was a freed woman, she was a freed woman turned abolitionist, but then from there she got hitched up with feminism, and how that happened. I think there again, that's infiltration. All it takes is one person to infiltrate, or to be an agitator, or to be, that's all it takes. That's all it takes, is for somebody to go in and say, hey, yeah, I'm like-minded too. Yeah, I believe in the same things you do. They go in there, they learn what your agenda is, what your mission is, and they infiltrate. And they undermine. And before you know, there's like they get planted everywhere. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Latina A. Hope you're doing well as well. I appreciate you so much for coming in. But yes, I just had to bring this out because there's just, and see, that's what they don't want. I mean, I've heard some of, the guy that did, he's not I guess he's one of the producers, Chad O. Jackson. Chad O. Jackson has some of the most, he's absolutely a thinker. And I think he is going to be, he's turning over a lot. He's turned over a lot of stones. I mean, figuratively, when it comes to the past. I mean, he was a co-producer. He's one of the producers of that movie, of the stream, of the piece Uncle Tom. And he has not stopped. I don't think that wasn't it wasn't an isolated film. I mean, he actually has done his own research, and clearly years of research. And it's just, and it's also more of an education for others. You really have to look into the past in order to see the patterns that the roads take you to where you are right now. It takes you to where you are. Well, it takes you to where it shows you where we've been, but it also, I can see where it's going. They're going to keep, because if you can get if you can get people, if the country is already infiltrated with communists and Marxists, and then you had Black Lives Matter walking around, running around, the founders, what was it, Colors, Patrice Colors, and that other woman, they told you who they were. You don't have to, you don't have to make it up. But that's all that, but that's what you've got being elevated into these positions right now. And they are going to be, they are on the playing field. They have a mandate right now, and it's TRUMP. Well, Latina, I appreciate, the question. I don't really, to me, unfortunately, I think there's a faction of the black, quote, black community. There, it's more of the faction is the more of the same school that I was talking about. It's all victim, low vibrational, victimhood, low vibrational people that refuse to think for themselves. They refuse to read anything, but they believe in myths. I find it a lot. They're not gonna, what they share are myths. That does not make a movement. It's like folk tales. And see, that's the problem with history. A lot of things that to me that they call history to me are more folk tales and myths. And I'm finding that more and more when it comes to quote black history end quote. And it doesn't really matter. When you look at the writers like the Zora Neale Hurstons, and a lot of black people are uplifted for, and there's nothing wrong with that genre, but people, the problem is people conflate. Why would people conflate something that's fictitious with reality? And unfortunately, that's what entertainment has done. That's what the television has done. It has conflated people's reality. Black people, unfortunately, most of these low vibrational narc type characters, they cannot discern, and they've allowed the media, they've allowed these king shit liberals to basically tell them who they are, define who they are, to manufacture who they are. Because honestly, the more fluid, the more deceptive that they are, they give you an ounce of truth, but that 1 ounce of truth is just, and it can all be heavily loaded with lies, but that 1 ounce of truth is just enough. They might, when I look at some of these writers and all this, they might take one instance, they might take a shred of truth and spin it into an entire myth and folk tales. But then black people turn around and call that history. That's not history. That's folk tales and myths. Is what you're referring to. And then they take those folk tales and myths, and then they go out here and try to and weaponize it against other people and try to use that. Oh, well, yeah, like this is real because this must be real because this person from the Harlem Renaissance wrote that, and that's what it is. And see, that's the problem. And I think even on top of this, a lot of quote blacks, end quote blacks, they are religious, but they're not following Christ. No. Their litmus test is the white man versus the situation. It's not about what Christ would do. It's not a what would Jesus do or what would Christ would do. Their litmus test is based on myths. If somebody goes to a college and has a bad experience, and that person all of them says, "Oh well, they were racist. Oh, they were racist. Everybody's racist." That is mythology to me because that's one person's experience. It can't be that the person's a jerk or anything. They don't use any wisdom. They don't use any wisdom. They don't have any faith in as a Christ, as a follower of Christ. So it's easy to be manipulated when you don't have any roots. You can be religious. You can be religious in your reliability when you rely on things. That doesn't make you a follower of Christ. Yeah, yeah. See, that's another. Yeah, it's just church is not like we look at all those displays of Kamala Harris. It was like they were worshiping her to me. And then they had all these so-called fake, and that's the part that they're really pissed about with all these fake idols that they put out in front of blacks, the idol preachers, the mega preachers, and oh, well, vote for Kamala Harris and women and all the people. You've never talked about women, and you've never gave a damn about any of those. You were never a feminist. Now you're a feminist all of a sudden. Now you can just the brainwash is real. It's complete nothing but rhetoric. Complete rhetoric. So I said all that to say no, it's very limited. Yeah, churches is they go. Many people go to church religiously, but they're not going there. It's a feel good kind of a moment. And unfortunately, though, I think the way some people look at Christ is as long as they can get, as long as he's doing something, as long as they're getting everything they want, they think they want, they're oh, because one thing I've heard, some sick things I've heard in the past. Well, what did Jesus do for black people? You see how you see what I'm saying? It gets to be more of that narc personality that wants to know what somebody can do for them, and it's all about them. And they go to these low vibrational places when they get a response for somebody that doesn't that's not wired like them. But yes, like I said, there's probably somebody on here right now that just suffered a narcissistic injury because of what I just said. And if they're if they're voyeurs, they've probably hey, they've gotten a lot of narcissistic suffered a lot of narcissistic injuries just right here from tuning in on this show. But I'm just telling you, you don't have to believe what I say. Just look at what's in print. Look at what the liberals are proud of. They are proud of the quote black Marxist. They are very proud of the black Marxist because those people will carry out the agenda of the Communist Party. But there again, this is what I'm talking about. If we're going to talk about if we're going to be celebratory, if we're going to point it out, we need to start calling everything out. If I'm not mistaken, the communists, I'm not sure where their headquarters are. I wouldn't be surprised if America's Communist Party's headquarters are not in New York City. I wouldn't be surprised. The UN has an office there. Why wouldn't the Communist Party have an office somewhere down the street? I'm telling you, but America doesn't talk about that. They don't talk about their enemies from within. We sit around and we just think it's just all about just Trump or it's just this. It's not just one faction. It's not. It's really not. When you think of the Columbias, these I mean, you think of all these schools and the ones that are and the most celebrated people from that time, and even now, they've got the same lineage. And so we'll see who else. So everything that was activated 4 years ago is going to be on steroids. Everything that was activated in 2020 and 20 from 2016 through 2020 is about to be on steroids. They're already talking about that they basically need somebody from MSN, that guy that wears those round glasses. I don't know, it's some white guy on MSN. Basically, they need to control him. The media is already launching their attacks. They're launching their attacks. And then the fact that you have AG Barr, he's back on the scene. Honestly, these same characters. that's why this system. There's just so much about the system that doesn't work because it's not real. I hadn't heard anything from AG Barr since what, 2019? So I don't know, but for TRUMP, if he thinks he's gonna get in there and do, if he thinks he's gonna get in there and do certain things, he's already got the same people on his tail again. The same people on your team. If you're loading your team with the same people, what do you think you get? You can't get the different results. So I appreciate you coming in and listening to me at this moonlighting hours. That's what I call it. But I mean, it's honestly, but even what was it? The great, gosh, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. But he's a black man, and he's still alive. He's about 90 years old. And he admitted that he was of the Marxist. Believed in Marxism, or he was more Marxist before he said no. I can't think of his name right now. Dr. Soul. So I'm telling you, it's real. It's real. These schools, and I'm not saying that these people are not brilliant, but just like you're brilliant, you can be used for good. You can also be used for evil. You can all be used for evil. So we'll see what happens here, because like I said, I'm telling you, I guess you better get the greatest show on earth. You better go ahead and get you some popcorn to go with it, because it's already popping off. All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in, Latina A. And I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments section. You just think about all the mandates. I mean, the mandates that are out there right now with this situation. I'm being honest, I was really quite shocked that Harris actually conceded, because to me, she's following very much in Hillary Clinton's footsteps. I actually thought she was going to challenge this, but she was very graceless in the way she exited the stage. It's like she could not handle the defeat. She basically left these people standing out there, and I'm just saying, I just think there's a lot of spiritual stuff going on. This whole process, people standing in line as if they're waiting to get into the gates. I mean, to me, it's just ridiculous. Standing in line to watch her. I bet people stood in line to get into those churches with her, and it was like, my gosh, this is all so blasphemous. Symbolically, it's very much blasphemous, and it's mockery. So I know, like I said, let me know what you think in the comment section. What have you seen? What do you see? I mean, like I said, they're already firing shots. Like not literal shots. They're already being fired. So this is going to be attack. What it's about to be. It's going to be a dangerous 4 years. Unfortunately, is what I think. I think it's going to be a very dangerous 4 years, not just for anybody that's elevated to these positions, but it's going to be dangerous for the people as well. So, with that said, let me know what you think in the comment section. This Letitia James is already at it again. She basically said they were preparing for this time. They were preparing for this outcome. And of course, the people have a plight. It's always they're fighting for somebody. We're always fighting. We got to fight. So we'll see what happens. All right, guys, have a great Thursday.